It's the day before National Signing Day, and our Director of Scouting, Andrew Ivins, is here with us live in studio. Andrew, what's the top story you're tracking right now?
What's going on with Nicholas Harbor, our #1 ranked athlete, South Carolina? A lot of smoke about them here with 12 hours to go. Oregon, Michigan, Maryland also involved in the recruitment. So I want to know where the freak of all freaks is headed.
I want to know that too. Our friend Steve Wiltfong is joining the show to give us the latest on him. Also, Deuce Robinson, another name that we're tracking. Plus, Mel Tucker joins the show today. And we're taking a look at some of the top prospects in the class of 2024. All that and more as the College Football Recruiting Show starts right now. We have a full house today alongside Andrew Ivins and our Director of Recruiting, Steve Wiltfong. I'm Emily Proud. Signing day is tomorrow. Steve, how are we feeling?
Excited for it here. You know, finally put a stamp on the class of 2023. And then, as you said, we're going to look ahead to 2024 on this show.
Kind of chill, but we're still excited, right?
Yeah, not a lot of names in play, but some big ones.
All right, we'll talk about them. As a reminder, please submit your questions in the chat. We'll answer them at the end of the show. As always, like the video if you like it. But let's do some headlines. How about it? Deuce Robinson, the top tight end in the 2023 class. He may not make his college decision tomorrow on National Signing Day. This is per our Blair Angulo. Why do you think that's the case, Andrew?
I think there's a lot of numbers in play here, right? We're in the name, image, likeness era, but Deuce Robinson, also a talented baseball prospect, a guy that thinks he's going to go early in the MLB draft, and they have that slotting system. I mean, we haven't seen a ton of multi-sport athletes, but 2 years ago, Jay Allen, an Elite 11 finalist, he was committed to play baseball at Florida, had some football offers, ended up going 30th overall in the first round. He got a $2.4 million signing bonus. So I think Deuce Robinson and his camp need some time to maybe sort this one out.
Yeah, when you're an athlete like that, you got a lot of decisions. Meanwhile, four-star quarterback Marcus Stokes may also opt not to sign tomorrow. Instead, Andrew, you're reporting that he could spend the weekend visiting Alabama A&M. Stokes, as a reminder, was once committed to Penn State before flipping to Florida, but then the Gators pulled their offer after Stokes posted a video on social media using a racial slur. So what's next for him?
I think there's a chance he could potentially sign on Wednesday with West Florida. And a lot of people probably aren't familiar with UWF, but won a Division II national title a few years ago, served as a stopping point for Austin Reed, the prolific quarterback there at Western Kentucky. So we'll see what Marcus Stokes does. Alabama A&M, certainly an interesting option for him just with it being an HBCU. But he could wait this thing out and look for a landing spot.
All right, how about the Georgia Bulldogs adding to their #1 class in 2024 by picking up a commitment from the 5th-ranked running back, Dwight Phillips? What are the back-to-back champs getting?
Speed. You're seeing it on the screen right there. This is Georgia's defending 7A state champ in the 100-meter dash. Dwight Phillips Sr. was an Olympian, won a few gold medals in his day. This is a guy that can fly. We always talk about what Georgia does on the defensive side of the ball. Well, hey, they just added an offensive weapon. I'm assuming they want to use some jet sweeps with him, get him the ball in space, and it's a big pickup for the Bulldogs and Kirby Smart.
All right, meanwhile, it sounds like Clemson's Elite Junior Day went pretty well because immediately following, the Tigers landed 2 commits. Defensive lineman Champ Thompson and 4-star safety Noah Dixon adding to Clemson's 10th-ranked class. What can Tiger fans look forward to seeing with these two?
Two guys that can make an impact there in the front 7. Clemson put together one of the top defensive line classes in 2023. Champ Thompson comes in right behind them. Clemson lights out when they get kids on campus. I don't think they're done netting commitments from that big junior day they had over the weekend.
All right, we are not even close to done with the show. We have so much to get into. Steve Wiltfong here at the desk with us. Very exciting. You're going to give us the latest on the 2023 uncommitted players because there are still a few that we've got to work through here. So let's start with the top guy. We mentioned it, Nicholas Harbor. He was recently in Eugene visiting the Ducks. So where do things stand with him one day from signing day?
Well, unless things change over the next, where are we at, 20 hours now? I like where South Carolina's positioned for Nicholas Harbor here down the stretch of his recruitment. It's the program where I think he has the best relationships with coaching staff, players on the team, and recruits, likes the track and field program over there, and just feels very comfortable in Columbia. Now he's coming off a fantastic visit to Oregon, and I'm told that the Harbor camp still remains in communication with the Ducks. Mike Loxley in Maryland looked like they had some momentum brewing in this recruitment in December. Our Jeff Ehrman from Inside MD Sports says that Mike Loxley's scheduled to talk with Nicholas Harbor again this evening. So even though Nicholas Harbor may have a good idea where he wants to go, and I think South Carolina is well positioned there, as you guys know, if those lines of communication are still open, at any time a recruitment could pivot and end up somewhere else. And Oregon certainly has a lot to offer in this recruitment from a track and field standpoint, football standpoint, Nike athlete potential type standpoint. And then Maryland, the hometown school, both his parents have graduate degrees there. He knows that staff well. There's a lot of familiarity. And their track coach was the 2012 United States Olympic track team track coach. So they check a lot of boxes as well. And Michigan's still trying to hang around in this recruitment as well. But as we record right now, South Carolina is the school that I'm liking.
Steve, obviously Harbor, super fast, right? And the guy that might be faster than him in the class of 2023, Roderick Pleasant, Pac-12 schools, kind of the buzz with him heading into Wednesday. Where do things stand in that recruitment as we approach the buzzer?
Yeah, maybe 2 to 6 years down the road, you're talking about Nicholas Harbor winning the 200-meter world gold medal and Roderick Pleasant winning the 100-meter gold medal. This one's a USC-Oregon battle down the stretch here. And, talking to my colleagues, Greg Biggins and Brandon Huffman, there was a lot of USC buzz at the Polynesian Bowl. But I know that Oregon is still recruiting this young man extremely hard. Again, all the track stuff is in play for Roderick Pleasant regarding the Oregon Ducks. Now, USC, as Brandon Huffman reminded me yesterday, their track program certainly not chopped liver. But Oregon continues to have dialogue with Roderick Pleasant today. They're still very much in it, and that's a recruitment that I find to still be sort of up in the air.
All right, as we just told you, Deuce Robinson may not sign tomorrow. So you got USC, Georgia, Oregon, Texas, and Alabama all awaiting the Five Stars decision. If he doesn't sign tomorrow, what's next for him?
I'm not expecting him to sign. Okay. Blair Angula obviously had the report yesterday that he may not sign. I talked to a source today that tells me that they're not expecting him to sign, that he just needs more time, which you feel good about Georgia's position, but if he needs more time, if you're the other schools, USC particularly, you're glad that you're maybe going to get more time, or the Texas Longhorns, or maybe even perhaps Oregon. He has one more visit in play if he chooses to use it.
You all right there?
Yeah, just a little tickle in the throat here.
He's getting ready for the big day.
Well, one guy who we don't know if he's going to sign either, Jaden Rashada, the quarterback that was signed, sealed, delivered to Florida. Billy Napier had to delay his signing day press conference, right? And then he gets out of his LOI. That's been all over the headlines, all in the media. What's the latest on him? We went to Arizona State, was at TCU. Do you think he signs, or do you think he waits this thing out?
As of right now, everybody I talked to thinks that he does end up making a college decision here this week. I believe that there's still dialogue with both programs, Arizona State and TCU right now. I think he's extremely comfortable with the Sun Devils. Has known Kenny Dillingham for a long time. What Kenny Dillingham was able to do in 1 year at Oregon, turning that into a top 10 offense. You saw the growth that Bo Nix had from Auburn to his 1 year at Oregon, emerging as one of the top quarterbacks in college football. And then he's got his brother at Arizona, in the area living in Tempe, and then his dad went to Arizona State. There's a lot of familiarity with that program, and I think he likes it a lot. But look, TCU, Sonny Dykes and his offense, he got a chance to get to know Sonny Dykes over the weekend when he visited the Dallas-Fort Worth area, which I also think is an exciting city for him. He's got a long-standing relationship with Kendall Briles, and talked to people that spent time with him at TCU over the weekend, and they're very optimistic about where TCU stands with Jaden Rashada as well. So I keep asking if there's other schools in the mix right now for him, and I keep getting it's just TCU and Arizona State.
All right, we'll keep it simple. I like that. Late riser in our final top 247 rankings was the offensive lineman, Chimdi Ono. He is the 5th highest ranked undecided prospect. All eyeballs on what he's going to do tomorrow, but you put in a crystal ball for Penn State. Why are you leaning Nittany Lions here?
Yeah, my colleague and I, our colleague, Brian Doan and I, tag teaming that story there, and we like Penn State for Chimdi Ono. It took a late official visit to Ole Miss. Rutgers was an early contender, but this one's really coming down to Penn State and Michigan State, and we like the Nittany Lions position with him him, Phil Trotwine, offensive line coach, leading the recruitment there. And when he took his official visit, he got a chance to really see how he fit in with the players on the team, spend a lot of time with the guys, and I think he liked how he meshed with those guys. Penn State on the cusp of maybe the college football playoff again, another New Year's Six win for James Franklin and that staff, and they're quietly putting together one of the best offensive line classes in the country. And if they could add Chimdy to that, which I think they will, as the crystal ball says, that'd be a heck of a close for James Franklin and Penn State.
All right, we'll see what happens there. Finally, Andrew, I'm going to toss this question to you. See, as you said, all the colleagues, everybody works together on this. The Harris twins, they're apparently going to make their decision tomorrow, and the crystal balls are kind of split between Maryland and UCF for what many, I think, believe is just a package deal. But what's the latest there?
Well, I got a text from a source involved in the recruitment an hour before we got on the show. He said this thing is going to be wild. It could go a variety of different directions, and you're right, they're twins. They've been together their whole lives, grew up in Jamaica. Sounds like I wouldn't rule out one of them signing one school and the other picking the other school. I think that scenario is in play. I did a quick research. I can't recall that ever happening. We know package deals when it's friends and high school teammates, but two brothers that are in the same class, the same age, born minutes apart, picking different schools would be out there. So I think UCF and Maryland are the two they're considering. The Knights were expecting them to be on campus this past Friday. I was actually in Orlando. I didn't see the twins there, so we'll see. Maryland, they're lights out at the buzzer with Mike Loxley.
Now, you said one could go one way and one could go the other, but you didn't specify who where.
Where?
So in your game of where the Harris twins are potentially leading, which fan base should get excited about which brother?
I think Andrew for UCF and then Maryland for Michael. But it could flip, right? You know how it is I think they had to make some more phone calls, talk things over with the parents. But UCF's pushing the move to the Big 12 big time. They're also pushing that Gus Malzahn, the only active coach that's beat Nick Saban 3 times.
Two great prospects, two raw prospects. They spent most of their childhood playing soccer, so football is definitely new to them. Excited to see where they end up. Well, they're just two of a handful of prospects taking their decision down to signing day. So a few programs will still hope to add to their class tomorrow. One of those teams in play for some signing day steals, Michigan State. I had the opportunity to catch up with head coach Mel Tucker earlier today to get his final thoughts ahead of tomorrow. All right, Coach, I appreciate you being here during such a busy time. We're on the eve of signing day, where you currently have a top 25 class by our rankings. And I'm just curious, from your standpoint, what did you set out to accomplish with this 2023 cycle, and how does this group meet those expectations?
Yeah, we wanted to make sure we went after the top high school players in the country. And we knew that if we did that, we would get our fair share, and we did that. We also wanted to be very strong in the portal to address some immediate needs, and I believe that some publications have us as the number one portal class. So we accomplished what we set out to do.
Yeah, we've got you up there too in the portal rankings. Meanwhile, the early signing period has definitely made this February signing day just a little bit more subdued. But what is today like as you prep for tomorrow?
Yeah, well, we're looking to sign at least one more player on the second signing date, and we're just making sure that all our I's are dotted and our T's are crossed, and we recruit every single day here, and it just really never stops. But we're really excited about this class, and we'll also be looking to add some players, after spring ball and before our summer program starts.
Yeah, really, truly, it never sleeps. So we do all these rankings and lists, and I won't take it personally if you do not pay attention to those. Some coaches do. Some coaches tune it out. But by Job, he's a guy that we rated as the number one player in Oklahoma, the 7th best edge in the class. But I want to ask you about his status on our freaks list. I promise this is like an endearing term here. It's just he's a freak athlete. So what stood out to you when you were recruiting not just the football player, but the athlete?
Yeah, he is a freak athlete. So his first step, his one-step quickness is the best that I saw on tape all in this entire class. I mean, he can bend. He's tough. He runs. He's got highlights of catching balls and running for touchdown 60 yards. I mean, he can do it all. He's an excellent basketball player. But I'll tell you, when you get to know Bai as a person, he's got a great story. People are really gonna love him, and and once they get to know him and see what he's all about. But yeah, certainly as an athlete, not too many guys like him in the country.
So does this mean you're going to throw him the ball sometime, or?
We'll see. You never know. The more you can do, right?
Exactly. You mentioned the portal. When it comes to your use of the portal, I mean, how do you determine which players are fits, both in the system you want to run and then also in the locker room?
Yeah, well, culture is everything to us here, and so we have a fit score that we apply to players. Outside of their athletic ability, there's intangibles, and so we do a lot of research in a short period of time about the type of guys that we bring here, whether they're high school guys or portal guys. And so anyone that we get out of the portal, just like the high school guys, need to fit our culture, and that's the reason why they come here, is because there's alignment. They see how we operate here. They get a chance to meet our players, our coaching staff, and they see our culture, and it resonates with them. And so all of the guys we brought in and from the portal in this class have just been a really good match and a good fit.
Well, as you look back on last season, I know not the step you wanted to take in terms of building off that 11-win campaign, but how much does your recruiting change coming off a season like last year versus coming off that success you had back in 2021?
Yeah, not much. We still recruit at a high level. This is the best recruiting class Michigan State's had here in quite a long time. I think we tied the record for 4 stars, and so our recruiting really picked up. You guys see opportunity to come in and play right away. Every position is an open competition this spring and through the summer and fall camp, and so players see the direction that we're going in as a program. They love our culture. They love our players and our coaching staff, and so we just full steam ahead, and our record does not really indicate the type of program that we're building here. So recruiting has gone very well.
All right, finally, the Big Ten is going to look a little bit different in 2024 with USC and UCLA joining. You haven't hesitated to reach outside the Big Ten footprint in your recruiting. I mean, just look at this year's group. It's a great indication of that. But as the conference now truly becomes coast to coast, what is the pitch for Michigan State when you talk to prospects from the South and out West?
Yeah, well, we already have players from all over the country here. And so, the players can see that. The Big Ten is arguably the best conference in the country, and it's getting better. And Michigan State has 638,000 living alumni all over the country, East Coast to West Coast, and then the South. And so we recruit nationally, just like the other top programs in the country. It's a great place to get an education. You're going to be developed here on and off the field, and there's no better place to play than Michigan State.
I love it. I'm sold. Coach, thank you so much for the time. Congrats on your incoming class. I'm really looking forward to seeing them in action.
Yeah, thank you so much. Go Green.
All right, for more Michigan State coverage, head to Spartan Tailgate. If you like this video, please hit the like button. I've got some more questions that I'm going to have here for Steve Wiltfong, but I'm not going to ask them until we get to 75 likes. I've learned that threats actually work, so I'm going to continue to do that. Andrew, I've got a question for you here about just Michigan State recruiting. You heard Mel Tucker talk about how they've always recruited nationally and how they are recruiting at a higher clip than they ever have. It's all true. I mean, how have you seen recruiting change for Michigan State under Mel Tucker?
Well, 2 years ago, it was all about the transfer portal, right? I think they kind of realized you can catch, grease in a pan or whatever the term you want to use. And they've shifted more to the high schools, and recruiting nationally stands out to me. 15 signees from 10 different states. They went down and got Stanton Ramel out of Alabama. I mean, when does Michigan State won a recruiting battle down in the SEC footprint? I think they're also finding difference makers at the point of attack. He talked about Bai Jobe. We loved Bai Jobe out in San Antonio at the All-American Bowl. I mean, this is a kid that came to the United States thinking he was going to play AAU basketball, just showed a ton of grit and had a huge personality. We were kind of blown away by that. Jordan Hall, linebacker that they signed out of IMG Academy, I think he's going to be the heart and soul of their defense moving forward. So I think they're doing a good job of identifying program fits and guys that can be multi-year impact guys in that defense. So really, it's just attacking the high school ranks. And then one other guy I got to point out, Sam Levitt, the quarterback. I think a spray chart, if we're talking guys from their senior seasons, I mean, that guy put on the huddle. He makes some throws where you're just kind of like, wow. We gave him a late 4th star, and I just think Mel Tucker and them, this is the foundation. They had a top 25 class last year. You stack that back to back. That's the name of the game, and then supplement with the transfer portal.
I love it. Guys, I was not kidding. I've got lots of questions. My producer's in my ear saying, go to Steve. I'm not going to ask him anymore until we get 75 likes. We're at 66, so hit that like button if you want to get some more intel from Steve. Also, if you want to be a part of the chat, highly recommend it. There's some crazy things going on in here. Somebody is accusing you of apparently using a spray tan. If you want to be a part of the chat and be a part of a crazy conversation like that, you do have to subscribe to the channel, so make sure you do that. But I'll let you speak on that.
Yeah, can I defend
Please respond, yeah.
Past 2 weekends I've been out at 7-on-7 tournaments in the sun, all right? You know, I tan fast. I would never use a spray tan.
Okay. I mean, both of you guys are spending a lot of time in Miami. I mean, you were there for the Battle Miami 7-on-7.
Steve,
and so
how long was that day? What, 10 hours?
Oh, man, it's one of the longest days of the work year, right up there with the Combine at the All-America Bowl. But we saw a lot of terrific 2024 prospects down there, Jeremiah Smith being the first one to come to mind. Ohio State's obviously recruited the receiver position as well as anybody in college football over the last several cycles. Jeremiah Smith looks like the most college-ready of a special group. Now, you know, the standard is high on what he'll be on the other side with all the first-rounders, but Jeremiah Smith was certainly special down there.
Okay, I'm hearing we did get 75 likes, so thank you guys so much. Now I'm going to challenge you to 100. While we talk to Steve, I did promise that we'll ask him some questions, and we're going to turn the page and look ahead to 2024. The top player in the class, Dylan Raiola, just took a visit out to USC. So what's the latest with his recruitment coming off that trip to LA?
Well, I think USC continues to be one of the top contenders for Dylan Raiola, who said his visit was awesome, got a chance to spend a lot of time around Lincoln Riley, and we know that Lincoln Riley is such an involved head coach recruiter, particularly when it comes to quarterbacks, and he only offers 1 or 2 a cycle because that's pretty much all it takes when Lincoln Riley offers. Generally, a young man jumps on it, and Dylan Raiola is strongly considering USC because of his track record of developing Heisman Trophy winners and the first pick in the NFL draft, and then those guys going on to be successful in the NFL. But it was a big visit for his mom, too. You know, he had been to USC before. His dad had been to USC before. But getting an opportunity to get his mom on campus, she loved it. They got a chance to hang out in the Coliseum, spend time around the coaching staff. And so mom is also 2 thumbs up on USC right now. But there's some other major contenders in this recruitment for Dylan Raiola. Nebraska, of course, that's where his dad played. He was an All-American, a Remington Award winner. His number is retired inside Memorial Stadium. Matt Rule was in there 2 weeks ago. Brought a Nebraska boombox with them, I believe. And then 9 assistant coaches were inside Chandler High last Friday, leaving a big impression on Dylan, who's been able to communicate with Matt Rule and Coach Satterfield over the phone. He's going to get back to Nebraska for a recruiting visit in March. His uncle's obviously the offensive line coach, and they're excited about the trajectory of Nebraska's program. And his dad said, look, if Matt Rule can turn Temple into a conference champion and can take Baylor from the gutter of college football and turn them into a conference champion. He talked about the resources Nebraska has, more than those programs for their football program. So they're excited about the trajectory of Nebraska football under Matt Rule. And if Dylan Raiola goes to play there, all of a sudden you got yourself a franchise quarterback, maybe the top player in the country, coming in there to supplement what's a sneaky good 2023 class. But I like Georgia right now. Let's get to the punchline. I think Georgia's the team to beat going into the next wave of visits for him. Okay. You know, I think he got a chance to watch him play in the national championship. His sister plays volleyball at TCU, so I'm sure she had a lot of fun pre-game enjoying that national championship atmosphere out there at SoFi. But her brother was enjoying watching Georgia's offense and Stetson Bennett and Coach Todd Monken's scheme in that ball game. And Georgia was the original favorite for Dylan Raiola. We know him now as the #1 player in the country. Before he had a ranking, Georgia was the first program to target him. They were way ahead of the curve for Dylan Raiola, got him to Athens several times. Obviously, things happen in recruiting. They ebb and flow. Ohio State ultimately ended up becoming the favorite, landing his commitment, but now he's back on the market. I think Georgia's the tone setter. Nebraska's in a sneaky good position. USC's a threat, and then Oregon's another program that I would imagine will get a visit before he decides what his next move is.
I want him at Nebraska. We're going to talk about it tomorrow. Nebraska might have
the 10th coach. The 10th coach here.
They might have the fastest recruiting class in all of 2023, but we're going to talk about that tomorrow on the show. Steve, let's go from the number one player to the number 4 player, David Stone, defensive lineman out of IMG Academy. I call this guy someone that can dent protection, get after the quarterback. Oklahoma has been the school he has talked about at length through the process. He's from Oklahoma, close to the Sooners, but he was just at Michigan State. Mel Tucker was just on the show. I think they've done an excellent job recruiting him. Where do you stack the Spartans and handicap this race for us?
Well, if Michigan State's not at the top, they're near the top. He's been there 2 weekends in a row, had a fabulous time both times, brought his family the second time, loves Mel Tucker, loves the staff, feels good about his potential in East Lansing, but obviously there are a lot of other suitors. Miami, Texas A&M had visits coming up. Oklahoma's been a mainstay. He's got a top 10, but Michigan State within that top 10's got to be 1 or 2, I would think, right now, and we'll see if they can maintain that momentum for the rest of the cycle.
All right. Andrew mentioned it. Our show tomorrow's not just a show. I mean, we got wall-to-wall signing day coverage. You're definitely going to want to check it out. Somebody who's making their decision tomorrow. You'll have good. That's good. Maybe some lozenges or something like that. We need you tomorrow, so get ready to go. Meanwhile, the #1 corner in 2024, Ellis Robinson, will make his decision tomorrow. Georgia is the crystal ball leader. Steve, how good are you feeling about the Dogs here?
Love Georgia's position here. Now, this is a young man that has been recruited for several years as well. And I talked to his parents this week, and they said early in his process there was a time where he almost committed to Georgia and he almost committed to Alabama. And they kind of had to talk him off the ledge of jumping in the boat for someone so early. And so he went through the process, had some really good visits to Miami, Florida as well, but I just think Georgia is the program to beat here, and I think Georgia's tracking for the best recruiting class in 24/7 sports history, coming off 2 national titles, and Ellis Robinson is someone that they're in phenomenal position for because of the relationships he has with the staff, starting with Fran Brown, Will Muschamp, and Kirby Smart, obviously the pedigree, the player development, the NFL draft, the standard on the field. I think he loves all the reasons why he picked IMG to go down there and play alongside the best high school football players in the country against one of the best schedules in the country. I think those are all the reasons why George is in a really good position here going into his college football decision tomorrow.
Well, I've seen a lot of corners in the class of 2024 over the past 2 weeks while I'm tanning. I think Ellis is my favorite of the bunch. And just going to Georgia where they already got the top 2 safeties committed in Peyton Woodyard and Jalen Hayward. I mean, they are just stacking chips on the back end.
And when Ellis got hurt, he injured his knee and tore, or whatever. College coaches that checked in, it was like the entire Georgia staff, and not just coaches, but off-field staffers and everything, sending their blessings to him as he went into an operation there. I think stuff like that really resonated with the family and has put Georgia in excellent position to land his commitment tomorrow.
Steve, one other guy that is announcing tomorrow, Austin Mack, quarterback. Not a lot of people know about him, but our guys on the scouting side are super high on him. He is, I think someone has him measured at over 6'8". He's at Folsom High School out there in California. He's going to make a decision. Crystal ball is painted for Washington. You still liking that prediction?
Yeah, absolutely. Tag team that story with our colleague Brandon Huffman, who's going to be on the show later today to talk a little Oregon and a little Colorado recruiting classes. But the vibe we're getting is that Austin Mack is trending towards Washington going into his decision. And why not? Washington had the nation's #1 scoring offense. They were #2 in total offense, or it's the other way around, one or the other on that. But obviously prolific offense. You look at Kalen DeBoer and his track record with their current quarterback. When he had him at Indiana, he was a stud. When Kalen DeBoer wasn't there, he was not a stud. Now he's at Washington, and he's one of the best quarterbacks in the country again, so coaching matters. And this is a young man who's Washington. They don't have anybody behind him. Sam Heward's gone to UC Poly or wherever, and they don't have a quarterback committed in 2023 right now. So it's kind of a runway to come in and compete early down the road. And here's Austin Mack, a 70% passer last year, over 3,000 yards and 40 touchdowns, so just 5 picks. He's an exciting quarterback and one of the best in the country.
Can I just shoot in right here? He's a candidate for the 2024 Freaks list. He's got a video of him snatching 200 pounds. As someone who does a little weightlifting, that's pretty impressive for a big guy.
You could say CrossFitting.
I love it. A little preview to next year's Freaks list. I love it. All right. If you want to hear Austin Mack's announcement, well, here you are. I mean, this is where you're going to hear it tomorrow on the 24/7 Sports YouTube page. He will lead off our special edition of this very show, the College Football Recruiting Show, tomorrow, 4:45. So be sure to tune in then. Let's switch gears here. To the West we go. The top 10 classes in the Pac-12 look something like this. Dan Lanning's Ducks on top. USC, Utah, Washington, Colorado rounding out the top 5. Our friend Brandon Huffman joins the show now to break down the pack here. Brandon, 5, count them, 5 Pac-12 schools are currently in the top 30 team rankings. Compare that to 2022, where there were only 3. Why do you think the Conference of Champions has been able to ramp up its success on the trail in such a short amount of time?
Well, I think there's a couple things. I think Utah's finally starting to see the fruits of their labor on the field. They've won 4 of the last 5 Pac-12 South titles, the last 2 Pac-12 championships. So they're in the top 30. USC, without any coaching uncertainty, under Lincoln Riley in his first full year, a year after they started signing day in December, ranked in the 100s. After Lincoln Riley took over just a couple weeks before. Well, this year, with 3 5-stars in Malachi Nelson, Mekhi Lemon, and in Zachariah Branch, they're back in the top 30. Oregon maintaining their spot there. Washington doing well. So you're looking at the Pac-12 and you're seeing much more coaching stability. You also had kind of a banner year on the field for the conference. And then you got what Deion's doing at Colorado. And what is he going to do like when he's got a full year under his belt to recruit there? You're going to see the Pac-12 schools, those 5 or 6 schools, maybe be more prominent in the next couple of years. Of course, 2 of those are going to be in the Big Ten rankings in the years coming forward.
Before we jump into some of those specific classes, one guy that's, I don't know, he's flying under the radar a little bit, Walker Lyons, top 247 tight end. When we talk about uncommitted prospects on the West Coast, it's all Deuce Robinson, Roderick Pleasant. What is the latest on Walker Lyons? Because I think Georgia's sniffing around. What can you tell us there?
Yeah, so as of late last night, it sounded like it's still a 4-team race. I was actually texting with Walker, and he still is undecided between Utah, where a lot of people think he may end up ultimately, USC, Georgia, where he took his last official visit and hosted the last in-home visit from Kirby Smart and his staff, and then Stanford, where he was actually committed during the summer, opened things up in the 48 hours after David Shaw's resignation. But Stanford, Troy Taylor, the new head coach at Stanford, was one time a Folsom head coach, so there's a lot of connections there. But with Walker, he's planning to serve his LDS mission. He's leaving for that next week, so he won't enroll anywhere until the fall of 2024. Now, even if he signs on Wednesday, within a year from now, if he hasn't enrolled at a school, that letter becomes null and void. So even if he signs, there's still the ability to recruit him after he returns from his mission. A lot of people think Utah is going to be the pick for him, given their success with returning missionaries. USC has been a prominent part of his recruitment for a long time. In fact, I would have thought during the summer that the Trojans were in the league before he picked Stanford. But with Georgia, you have them making that last push. They also still are waiting on Deuce Robinson. Now, there's going to be some separation in the class because of Walker's willingness to go on his mission and then come back and enroll in 2024. And can Stanford woo him back after having him committed? All 4 schools have reasons to think they're going to get him, and that's why, as of less than 24 hours before signing day, there still is a lot of uncertainty. You have yet to see me put a crystal ball on because there really is no clarity on his situation, and I'm not entirely convinced we will even have clarity within 24 hours from now.
All right, Georgia just taking all the tight ends there. But this is a Pac-12 segment here, and the class of the conference is Oregon right now at 10th nationally. They could improve on that depending on what happens tomorrow. I've been fooling with the class calculator a little bit. What have you seen from Dan Lanning that's really allowed him to seamlessly build off of Mario Cristobal's recruiting success with the Ducks?
Well, if a couple of things go right on Wednesday, they could have had one of the most exciting early December signing period days, and now the National Signing Day days. There's not a lot of guys available that haven't announced, but when they close the early signing period on that December day, when they were able to get Mateo Uiagalelei, when they were able to flip Austin Novosad, even though they had Peyton Bowen for a little bit and then lost them, holding on to guys like Jurion Dickey to be able to keep a Kenyon Sadiq in the fold. They had a very good class. Now, if they can get a Nicholas Harbor commitment, they can get Roderick Pleasant, and both might be trending to different USCs. Nicholas Harbor might be trending a little bit more towards South Carolina, Roderick Pleasant to USC. Oregon's track program could be the ace in the hole here for Dan Lanning to close with another flurry on Wednesday if they can land Harbor, if they can land Pleasant. Both of those guys have aspirations of the Olympics. When we talked to Rod Pleasant at the Polynesian Bowl, he said 2024 is a goal for the Olympics, but in 2028, he plans to be on the medal stand in his hometown of Los Angeles. Will he be leaving his hometown, though, for college? USC hopes not. UCLA still in that top 5. But Oregon's making that big push because of their track program, and that's what's attracting Harbor there. So Oregon could go 2 for 2 tomorrow on 2 big-time players. They could go 0 for 2, but it's not because of lack of effort by Dan Lanning and his staff.
Yeah, if they get both of those guys, they could potentially be a top 5 class. We'll see what happens there. Hey, we've only seen about 2 months of Deion Sanders at Colorado, and it's already been eventful and I'd say successful when it comes to recruiting. I mean, it sounds like Coach Prime hosted a very successful junior day this past weekend. So how can that help set them up for an even bigger showing in the 24 cycle?
Well, I mean, if you go back to the early signing period, on that night, Travis Hunter announced that he was going to transfer there. So they got the guy who was the #1 player in the country in 2022 by way of Jackson State to come in. Then a couple weeks ago, Cormani McClain flips his commitment from Miami to Colorado. So in just the short time he's been there, he's landed the premier corner in the country in consecutive classes in a pass-friendly conference. What is Deion going to do when he has a junior day like he did last weekend? When he has a full spring to get on the road and do evaluations for his assistant coaches to go out and not be a part of a lame duck staff, but to be a part of a staff that has a lot of buzz? What's it going to be like in the spring when spring football starts in Boulder and kids are going to be coming out and doing their unofficial visits and getting to watch Deion coach? What's it going to be like this fall with a brand new roster if they can turn things around on the field? What kind of class can Colorado have in 2024? Well, if the last month is any indication of what Deion has done in that short time, then I think the rest of the Pac-12 should be no longer counting Colorado as an also-ran in the rankings, but I think all the Pac-12 schools and all the national schools should be very afraid. There were a number of players, not just from the state of Colorado, but a number of players from the West Coast, from the Southeast, from all across the country that were in Boulder this last weekend in the 2024 class to get their look at Deion, to get their time on the Colorado campus. And hey, I'm old enough to remember, and I was in high school when Colorado won a national championship. Is the buzz starting to return in Colorado? Yes, I think it absolutely is. The next 9 months, though, are crucial building up to that season. But the last 6 to 8 weeks, Colorado fans have not been this excited in a very, very long time.
Ooh, that sounds like a lot of fun. Brandon, thank you so much. We'll talk to you tomorrow on our National Signing Day show. Cannot wait for that. This is the portion of the show where we answer viewer questions, and I'm so excited because I have both of you here, so I have viewer questions for both of you. But before we get there, I got to tell you about something that happened kind of behind the scenes during that interview. Our producer, Chris, who is a wonderful human, came in and brought you some water. So if you think that's wonderful, go ahead and hit that like button. I did because I thought that was great. And thank you to Chris. But let's keep it rolling here with some viewer questions, all right? Who should I start with here? I've been tracking. You guys have put in a lot. Steve Wiltfong's been in the chat during it, so you've already been answering some questions.
They told me to. I do what I'm told around here.
That's just what he does.
It's obedience.
Okay, I'm not sure if you got to this one, though, from Sports Geek, so I'll ask you, is there any chance that Deuce doesn't play college football?
I mean, I suppose there's a chance. You know, obviously when you're entertaining Major League Baseball teams, and from what I understand, they go into the draft with those early picks, already kind of having a preconceived notion of what the number is for the signing bonus that's going to have this young man do what you want him to do from a business standpoint. So, I mean, I would think there has to be a number out there, right? That's like, yeah, you know what? Baseball it is, you know, but maybe not. I don't know. You know, I know his ambition is to be a professional athlete in baseball and football. So when he's looking at college football programs, Georgia's the one to beat right now because their track record of developing the tight end position specifically and how much success that they've had there. And then obviously baseball, he knows he's going to get drafted. He knows he has a track to make it to the major leagues. He's a year away from being a professional if he chooses to. So maybe there's a signing bonus number that says, hey, I'm dedicated to baseball, but he hasn't put that out there and said it's 12 mil or whatever or anything like that.
We've seen this happen before, but I've got to ask you this. Have we seen it happen when you have NIL opportunities at the college level and you're weighing both of those things?
That's what I was going to say. I mean, I think you're right. I mean, it comes down to slotting. I don't really know it that well. I've talked to a few MLB scouts, and I'm still trying to navigate figure that out.
You guys don't need to know.
Yeah, I mean, that's just more on our plate. But, you know, it's not easy at the end of the day to juggle two sports. It sounds good in theory now, right? You're going to go on the recruiting visits. They're going to tell you everything you want to hear, but then you got to execute it. Kyler Murray played like a few baseball games for Oklahoma, right? It's easier when football is the main focus and then you're playing a little baseball. So we'll see. I mean, I do think there's a chance, you know, if the right MLB team came along and offered him some figure, then, you know, how much are you going to pay for a tight end and a high school tight end? I mean, that's just something to think about.
No, I'm rooting for the young man, but selfishly, I want to watch him play football. So we'll see what happens there. Again, the expectation is that he does not make his decision tomorrow, so we'll wait to see later in the summer when he does make that decision. Next question here is for you, Andrew, from Tyler C. Which school, UCF or Maryland, is the best fit for the Harris twins? You tell us that they might separate, but where's the best fit?
I think it's UCF. We talked about it on the podcast last night. Steve was on there. Coop was on there. If you haven't subscribed, please download the podcast. I think it's UCF, right? UCF's moving to the Big 12. That's a speed and space league. Those are two linebackers that can get outside the hash marks. They got a new Linebackers coach there, Ernie Sims, former first-rounder, star at FSU, was actually this morning talking to a few of my buddies at the gym about Ernie Sims and his playing days. I think he's a spirited coach. He's got a ton of energy, and I think UCF has had success with multiple sets of twins in the past, right? Yeah, the Griffith twins, they got Jakari and Damari Henderson there. So I think their play style fits what UCF's going to face moving forward. They're going to face the TCUs. They're going to face the Houstons, all those schools. So I think the route to playing time is earlier in Central Florida. They really want those guys. Now, that doesn't mean they can't go to Maryland and find success. I mean, Mike Loxley, they run a great program there. But if it was me and I was advising those two, I'd be telling them, hey, stay home, stay at UCF. Mom's right down the street, and you're going to be on the field early.
Man, you're right. UCF has had a lot of twins. I don't know what that has to do with recruiting, but it has happened before, and so we've seen the success happen at the next level. Next one here for Steve from Ridfly. Why do you think Justin Scott postponed his commitment date?
Well, teaming up with our colleague Alan True on this story, I think certainly Georgia's a program that offered. Trey Scott goes up and watches him play basketball. And there was even talk that a quick visit was going to be scheduled to go down to Athens and see it. So I think Georgia is an enticing opportunity for him. And then talking to Alan, he said Ohio State is a program that he's hearing also maybe slowing things down for Justin Scott and his recruitment. And so slowing it down from who? Notre Dame is the perceived favorite for him right now. Marcus Freeman and his staff have done a fantastic job recruiting him. I think they're looking for their 4th or 5th straight top 10 class in South Bend. They've had him on campus a lot. Chicago's only like 90 minutes away from South Bend. So while Notre Dame's well positioned, there's a lot of coaches that finally got on the road after their seasons. They're able to go shake trees, meet people, talk to high school coaches in person, and with that, continue to build relationships with a young man that obviously liked what he heard from some other contenders and isn't ready to shut it down quite yet. Which I think if you're Notre Dame, you're happy about that as well, right? You don't want a young man jumping in the fold early, and then you have a situation where now you're bickering back and forth about visits and things of that nature. But Notre Dame's still in good position.
That's exactly what I was going to bring up. A little off-road here. Last cycle, Notre Dame was on Keon Keeley before anyone else, right? Got him committed. Then the SEC came calling. So if you're a Notre Dame fan, I think you want Justin Scott to take his visits and to be sure that Notre Dame is the fit, right? You don't want to have to play defense down the stretch. Would you agree with that? I mean, I haven't dug fully into Justin Scott yet, but I love the tape.
Plus, when you commit early, the schools that are coming in that are trying to swipe you, they now know exactly who they're recruiting against and can formulate a plan that's like, look, we got X, Y, and Z to their A, B, and C over there, and it's a long way to go. You commit right now, and you are as highly ranked and as highly sought after as a guy like Justin Scott. It's hard to turn off your phone for what would be 10 or 12 months, right, till December. 11 months. Yeah,
10,
you're right. Yeah,
11?
11 months. Well, a long time.
Yes,
It'd be a long time to avoid.
A lot of junior days to say
overture.
I got you. I got
and
a
you're
lot of-
seeing all your other peers in your class taking
that's
visits, posting stuff on social media. You kind of get the
and then there's the shuffling of the coaches.
Yes.
Right. There's all kinds
a lot changes between now and when they actually put pen to paper. I'm not going to ask you guys to do any more math because that is a struggle here. So we're going to ask this next question from Hannah G to you, Andrew. Will Miami's OC vacancy impact 24 recruiting?
I've been thinking about this since I saw it in the chat. I don't think so. To me, the biggest thing for Mario is he's got to get this hire right.
Yeah.
Okay. They got to score points. They got to win games. They got to make a bowl game here in 2024. Now, I think when you look at South Florida and the big names we already know that are established right now in the area, Jeremiah Smith, who Steve was talking about a little bit ago, Josiah Trader, those guys are going to be on campus. Mario Cristobal has such a hand in every recruitment. I mean, he could be listed as the primary literally for every one of those guys. He can recruit if he had no assistant coaches. He's going to get guys. That's what he does. So to me, the biggest thing is Mario needs to get the hire right. They need to get an exciting offense, someone that's going to unlock Tyler Van Dyke, right? Obviously, they dealt with a ton of injuries along the offensive line this past season. It didn't go as planned. I think Trevante Citizen, I keep saying this, him tearing his ACL in preseason camp was a big knock. So to me, find the right guy. Right, and then let everything else work out. I mean, kids are going to visit Miami. They've had a ton of kids on campus in January. So find the right fit and then let it play out from there.
To Andrew's point, it's not like Todd Monken's like known as this assassin on the recruiting trail. Certainly when guys visit Georgia's campus, they get a chance to talk with Coach Monken, and he went in home on some of these in-homes, but he's the play caller and the offensive mastermind. That's his job, to put these recruits that other people bring him, like Del McGee and company, in the right positions to score points. And I think if Miami can find an OC that's, ahead of the game on the offensive side of the ball, Mario Cristobal and the rest of that staff are going to put some able-bodied gentlemen on the field that can help you score a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's like saying that winning cures all. I mean, putting together an exciting offense will make offensive players want to come and
they got to figure it out at wide receiver. I mean, they got to figure it out. That is the one position where it remains a big question mark.
And quarterback.
There's a bit of a list.
Talented quarterbacks there, but wide receiver, they got to get one
of
these
guys. You got to maximize
guys.
them all too. So we'll see what happens there. This one's for Steve. What's the latest on Jamel Howard?
So I like Wisconsin right now, and I think when Luke Fickell and that staff got to Madison, he quickly became target number one, and certainly they crushed it in the portal, and they had some nice recruiting wins down the stretch. But I think this is their most coveted guy on the board. He was at one point committed to Paul Chryst and that old staff, has gotten a chance to really get to know Luke Fickell and that new staff, and they're looking for a true nose in this class to finish off what they've put together this cycle. And the intel that Alan True and myself are hearing right now is favoring Wisconsin. But Miami's in there still trying to make a late move. I think Michigan's out right now. I don't think he's going to end up at Michigan. I don't necessarily think he's going to end up at LSU either. Again, I feel really good about Wisconsin right now, but we still got some runway. This was a young man that was going to announce his college decision today that's now going to announce his college decision tomorrow. Now, the details are he wasn't going to announce at his school. Now he's going to announce at his school. That gives more time for people to make a move on Wisconsin, who I like right now.
I'm sure Mario Cristobal is going to text him probably like 100 times. And I think this one's fascinating. I wrote underlying storylines for signing day, right? There's only 5% of the blue chippers out there, but this is a guy where it's a heavyweight slugfest, right? Luke Fickell's there at Wisconsin, right? Player development guy. He steps in. You got Mario Cristobal, who is exceptional in the 11th hour. He's always got a surprise up his sleeve, so you can't rule him out. Brian Kelly down there at LSU. Ole Miss was at one time sniffing around. I mean, it's just fascinating. And every cycle there's like one point of attack player where their stock just he's getting the 5-star treatment, even though he might not be a 5-star in our rankings.
Yeah, another question we will hopefully get answered tomorrow. I've got more questions here. This is kind of a two-parter, so we're going to start with Steve. What's the latest on Jarrett Gibson? And then I want you to answer, Andrew. What would he bring to the school he chooses?
Well, I know Jarrett Gibson has taken recent visits to Texas A&M and Florida. He's one of the more special prospects in the 2024 class, one of the most highly sought-after players in the country. I think favorites are starting to emerge there, but I'm not ready to make any kind of prediction on where Jarrett Gibson's going to land right now. But I know he's coming off a really good visit to Gainesville, and we'll see what he lines up in March.
Originally from that outside of Gainesville area, was at one time committed to Florida. It's crazy. I mean, he's still got a year to go, and everyone forgets that he was a one-time Gators pledge. I think I've answered this question on the show like 10 times already. Jarrett Gibson.
Why do you think that is?
Because he's I think he's a running back one. I think he's a 3-down back. What he did at IMG Academy, I wish we had some of those highlights in the package there this past season behind that offensive line. I mean, he's got home run speed, can catch the ball out of the backfield. Most of the running backs that come out of IMG these days are pretty good to go when it comes to pass protection. We've seen Katron Allen, what he was able to do at Penn State. So I think he's a guy that's going to be able to play day one. Steve doesn't want to toss out any favorites there. Every time I've talked to Jarrett Gibson, I get a Texas vibe. They just took Cedric Baxter. Right now, Tashard Choice has turned his attention to Jarrett Gibson. I think Georgia's one to watch out for. He's been to Athens a bunch of times. And then Tennessee. He's been there a bunch as well. I think he's going to keep going through the rounds, and I would anticipate he probably stretches this one out for a while.
Georgia just landed a running back. They could flip Chauncey Bowens from Florida, so that's another 2024 running back out there for Georgia. And then Tashard Choice, he's kind of quietly become one of the best running back recruiters in the country with what he did with Cedric Baxter there in the last cycle, holding off schools like Florida State late, trying to come in on him. And certainly, Texas getting him on campus again recently, they're a contender.
Yeah. I think the reason that people continually ask about him is that we're starting to get some repeat customers here. We're getting some good viewership. Anytime they see you on the show, they say, I got to ask about Jarrett Gibson.
He's going to be a name we're going to talk about a lot, right? He's one of the most established prospects, I think, so far in the 2024 2024 cycle. We are now turning our focus to that, really diving into the film. He's a guy that I think is probably going to hover around that top 32 range. I mean, if I had to guess, he's tested exceptionally well. I've told you in the past, he played linebacker at the FBU Freshman All-American Bowl. I think he could be a defender if he wanted to. So he's a guy that I guess I should get used to talking about.
All right, we got one more question here. Does the Jaden Davis recruitment still favor Michigan, Steve?
It absolutely does. Michigan is still the team to beat for Jaden Davis. I know he talked to offensive coordinator Sharon Moore this week again and talking to people around Jaden Davis's camp. I love Michigan's position for him in this recruitment. I think that Ohio State's a program that's rising back up here. I think they're a school that he favored early in his process as well. And with them losing Dylan Raiola, he's one of two guys that they've jumped in on, Julian Sayin being the other. But as we sit here right now, I love Michigan's position for him, and I think it's going to take a lot for another program to make a move on them. He was back at North Carolina this last weekend, but again, Michigan's the bar. I think they lead by a lot, and we'll see if he allows anybody else to get in the race.
Okay, I apologize. I lied. We actually got a last-minute
can
question
I follow up
here.
on Jaden?
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
just saw Jaden Davis in Orlando at the Pylon tournament. Talked to him just about big picture, not the recruitment. I wasn't trying to bully him into saying anything, and I asked him, when are you going to make a decision? He said, when I feel like the time is right, I'm going to make a commitment. Then he also told me, he's like, hey, everyone thinks that I'm waiting on some NIL package. My family doesn't need money. That's not a driving factor for us. And coming out of that conversation, I think he maybe had some questions at some point about how long Jim Harbaugh is going to be at Michigan. Now we know Jim Harbaugh is going to be there through at least 2023. So I think he's just he's been through this. He's a kid that we've been talking about since he was a freshman. He knows that there's going to be a movement. And the one interesting thing he did say, Steve, is he wouldn't mind playing for a coach who has a hand in the quarterbacks. That's what he said. So, I mean,
it's very important for him. And he's talked about that with Josh Heupel and obviously Jim Harbaugh, guys that have played quarterback. And he's really hit it off with J.J. McCarthy, and his dad, Jeremiah, has really hit it off with J.J. McCarthy's dad, Jim. I had one source tell me, this is a young man that visited Michigan twice in the summer and twice in the fall. They said that when Jeremiah and Jim run into each other, it looks like two fraternity brothers reuniting in Ann Arbor. So, and one thing that the McCarthy camp told the Davis camp is that J.J. really likes Michigan's new quarterbacks coach, Kirk Campbell, who was off the field or kind of working in an analyst role or whatever, these job titles that these football people have these days. It's like advertising. There's so many titles out there, assistant regional manager. But anyway, Kirk Campbell has really impressed J.J. McCarthy, and that's a big deal in the Jaden Davis recruitment. And then Jim Harbaugh's pedigree, the success on the field, the big house. Jaden Davis is also a plus student. His mom works in education. What Michigan brings with an alumni and just what their education means. I think Michigan checks a ton of boxes, and they continue to be the bar.
All right, we got to wrap up the show here. One last question, last minute edition here. This is actually from a Blair Angulo. Hey guys, just landed. Where's dinner? Anybody want to take this? Where's dinner?
Well, Josh Pate, I'm going to be on Late Kick tonight, so you're going to want to tune in. Okay. And I got some Mediterranean coming my way.
Is it Tzatziki's?
It is. It is Tzatziki's.
That's his go-to. Where should we have dinner?
I'm posting up in the hotel room and doing research all night.
Okay, well, that's no fun. Hey, the reason that Blair Angulo is here is because he's joining us for this tomorrow, our wall-to-wall National Signing Day coverage, starting at 9 a.m. Eastern, and then at 5 o'clock we will have a special edition of this show to wrap up the day's action. Thank you for joining us on the show. Thank you for the likes. I'm not just asking them because I'm vain and I want to see that like button go up. It really does help us grow the show. And if you like it, again, please smash that like button. I think that's what they say, smash, don't hit. But thank you so much again for joining us here on the College Football Recruiting Show. We will see you tomorrow.